What does taking care of yourself look like?
Him getting out of my house and finishing school.
That's not self-care. That's
Yeah.
not self-care. Them doing something is not
It
self-care.
feels selfish to not be willing to. It feels selfish to me that it's not appropriate to have that kind of focus. Like to be able to say, hey, these things have to be done. Even to say that. Even to be able to say that. I want him to succeed. I want him to succeed.
Why?
Because of his happiness.
Is it his happiness or your happiness? Is it a reflection of you as a parent? And I know that's an age old. Mm-hmm.
It's all of the above. It's my happiness, it's his happiness, and it's a reflection.
Okay. So physics tells us, since a lot of you are wizards, physics tells us two things cannot occupy the same space. So if you care, they don't have to. If it's your responsibility, it's not theirs. If you're going through their backpack, all they have to do is sit and wait while you go through.
And it makes them not have the power of their own life.
It tells them that you don't trust them to take care of their own life.
I don't.
Yes, that is the honest. That's the honesty.
Right.
Now, remember, we're all here in this room because they have demonstrated life and limb behaviors.
Mm-hmm.
And what we have done is we have now taken all of their behaviors and dumped them into the life and limb bucket.
Yes.
Everything they do is a threat to their survival. Do you know what that tells me? It tells me that you're in survival. If them not getting their homework done means to you that they will be unsuccessful in life, you're in survival mode, not them. Because it's truly, homework is not life and limb. Oh, we would like to paint it as a picture to be.
What about graduating high school?
They can always go back to high school. Now I'm going to provide, I've got an answer for every single one. So what I'm going to come back down to is that gigantic fear of what if they don't graduate high school is actually leading into having this 18-year-old sitting in your basement playing video games and drinking and being unhealthy and not having a job, and you still having to raise him when he should actually be raising himself. And his life is still in danger. But that's where grades have gone with Gazzaccio.
Yes.
Okay. If we don't separate that out, there's no reason why he should either.
And I think one of the things that is really hard is you can physically see the effect it has on him when he's not achieving, and that then he spirals to a worse place. And so you feel like, even though he doesn't say, I need help to pull me out of it.
That was the best if-then you've done with him. If he doesn't feel like he's achieving, then he spirals out. Now my question is, where are you in that equation? And should you involve yourself into that math? Because if you do, then his spiral and his achieving become your responsibility. And once again, we come back to that. For some reason, women were taught that it is your responsibility.
Is it appropriate to watch somebody be in pain?
Self-destruct.
Well, no, that's why you all brought your kids to Fire Mountain. You've all intervened at the right time. The argument is not you've got to leave your child alone, because the moment this comes into play, you have to intervene. Interventions take place here, not on whether they did math. The attachment from life and limb to math class is an attachment that you're making. The fear that this is always at stake is your survival mode. That's what you're modeling, is what I'm saying. This is, when I say 100% responsibility, this is what I'm laying on you right now. You want to find out what you're responsible for as far as school goes? What are you modeling? What are you modeling by intervening on everything and providing everything to someone who actually needs to be prepared? Because they're in the transition. Now, I know that we're also in the place of saying we have some developmental issues with the kids.
Yes.
But are they blanketed across everything they do?
No, but I do think that's measured. For me, it's not just life and limb. For me, it's providing the appropriate structure when the kid is not capable of it and the consequences outweigh the benefit of him learning to take responsibility for himself when at this point in his life he's not capable. And I don't know, I can argue homework at Gazacho's age, but at a younger age, you need to set that structure. When you come home from school, you're going to have a snack, then you're going to do homework. Teenage years, they're going to say, screw you. You have hopefully weaned them off of that by the time they hit 13, so they are opening up the books on their own. And if they're not, you're going to have to let them own the natural consequences.
In everything you just said, my response is, what can you actually control?
And I'm hearing something that Warren said that I say, and that he said Gazacho's not capable. And
Willing or capable?
I think capability is on some of his actions.
But
if Gazacho could do better in a lot of things, he would. But he's making the best choice based on his developmental abilities that he can in a lot of circumstances.
And we're probably continuing to tell him that he's not capable, though, in some way by micromanaging the situation.
Anytime we go into drill sergeant or helicopter parent, we tell them how it's going to be and when it's going to be and the timeline that it has to be on. Tells them that they don't know how it's going to be, when it's going to be, and on the timeline. And if we helicopter around and constantly throw a mattress under their butt when they fall on the ice, we're telling them we don't trust them to ice skate or learn from their painful experiences. Now, you guys have evidence that shows that your children at times have not been willing to learn from their painful experiences. Mm-hmm. So this number one, this conversation is a conversation we have every parent weekend. And number two, it doesn't change the fact that two things cannot occupy the same space. That we're also dealing with physics. And we're also dealing with everything you did got you here. And if this is what you guys did before, and it led to this point, then we have to decide whether or not it's going to work going forward.
Well, I would say in Gazacho's thing, what I would like to have done is not the structure I was able to give him. With a two-parent family, inconsistent parenting, fighting between us, 5 kids, dealing with my own self-care. I think if I was able to provide him more measured structure, he would have been more prepared to take the responsibility later.
So now I see you looking in the crystal ball, okay, and you're saying, here's the flaw of what took place.
Right.
How does that help moving forward? What do you do different moving forward?
Well, I'd like to learn from the mistakes and find an appropriate way for Becky and I to work together as co-parents and to develop a strategy that lets him own the problem but also gives him the resources, whether it's structure or decision making, to make a better future for himself.
Okay.
And then live with it.
One of the things, I want to make sure, a minute ago you were like ready to jump out of your chair, and I feel like you've swallowed what you had to say. Is there something you still need to say?
I have no idea.
then
I think it comes down to your core beliefs.
Yes.
If your core belief is saying this is what I believe and I have no control over something else, then it seems like you could do self-care out the wazoo, but you still have that damage to your core belief every single time you see of the behaviors.
Is your core belief, okay, so I'm trying to understand this, because when I hear self-care, I see it and feel it as a way of strengthening my ability to follow through on my core beliefs. But if I'm not taking care for myself, what can I actually follow through on without completely burning out my adrenals and living a life of stress? To me, self-care is not just I do what I say I'm going to do, but I take care of the vessel that can actually accomplish my core beliefs. So when I say self-care, when I say put Maria third, I'm not saying never intervene. I'm saying before you intervene, have you actually practiced self-care so that your intervention is coming from the best place and not a stressed out, undernourished, needs not being met place? To me, self-care is where we practice meeting our own needs. And then we take care of our children.